Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I've got comics. Yes, comics. Now, it's been a while since I've bought any comics other than going to comic stores. I had the trip back at the end of December where my wife and I went on vacation. We visited a bunch of stores, and I always like to support the stores by buying stuff, picking up what I can here and there. But otherwise, I haven't really been spending too much. Partially, I just don't have the income right now to be spending stuff, but also I'm putting so much of my resources into making comics that I just haven't really had a chance to get many comics for my collection. But I do have some stuff here today that I wanted to show you from various things. We got some stuff that came in from Kickstarter that I bought a while ago. We got a couple back issues that I actually bought and some other new issues, a couple things that were gifts. And then we have some omnibuses or omnibuy at the end that I'll tell you all about. So I've got quite a mixed bag here, a lot of really cool stuff. Let's get it right into it with the Kickstarter stuff. Here's a cool little comic, and when I say little, I mean actually little, because you can see compared to a regular size comic, it's small, and it's called Our Faceless Fears. It's by writer C.M. Anderson, art by Studio Rover, and it's a little. The art style is sort of a manga inspired. It's actually quite good. Um, I like manga, and I like anime style, which is what this is done in. But it's a horror story about a ghost who doesn't realize she's a ghost. Um, so this was actually really good. The second issue is just out on Kickstarter. I haven't backed it at the time I'm recording this, but I may still back it. It did come with this cool print of the ghost girl facing off against a bunch of spectral monsters, because there does seem to be a sort of a bigger thing going on. This is kind of a standalone, but as I said, there's a second issue, so it has a broader thing that it's going to. So really cool. And I always like to support stuff on Kickstarter, new voices, stuff like that. And I also have some old friends on Kickstarter. So we have here's a series I've talked about a bunch of times. You can find a lot of videos on my channel talking about Miskatonic High. So this is issue 16 of Miskatonic High. And as I always say whenever I talk about Miskatonic High, these guys are where I'm trying to go, right? So they have put out 16 issues of Miskatonic High, all on Kickstarter, just in the last 5 years. And so they're less than 5 years. And so they're like the number one sort of test case in terms of using Kickstarter as the main distribution system for your comics, because while it's not monthly, they are putting out a little more than 4 issues a year, because they've had some specials and one shots and crossover books in addition to the regular series. And as at the time I'm recording this, they got issue 17 is launching in just a couple days. Don't know if it'll still be live by the time this video airs. So these guys are really just killing it. And this is where I want to get with Crime Busters and with my new fantasy comic that I'm launching this year, Quest. I want to get to the point where I'm putting out like 3 or 4 issues a year, and over the course of several years, I want to get up into those higher numbers. Because again, as far as Kickstarter comics are concerned, and I don't know all of the titles because there's so many, but this is definitely the highest number that I've seen and most consistent. I've seen some other titles that are starting to get up there into 7, 8, 9 range, but these guys are on issue 17 now. And the story's really cool. As you Cthulhu fans will know from the title, in the Cthulhu mythos and Lovecraft stuff, Miskatonic University is this spooky university in New England where all this weird eldritch stuff happens. And so the idea is this is the high school that's next to the university. And so it's high school kids that have like weird backstories and strange powers and suffering under different curses. They're trying to deal with high school, but they're also caught up in supernatural mysteries. So there's a lot of crossover in terms of the genre content with Crime Busters, which is also student sleuths, college students in my case, who investigate supernatural mysteries taking place at their school. And Mike Shea, the writer, and I, we've done some cross promotion with Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam and some of our other books. And of course, Ryan Mendoza, the artist for this, has done some of my variant covers for Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam. So these guys are great. I have interviews with both of them here on the channel. So I strongly recommend, particularly if you're into Kickstarter already. But if you're not if you haven't really checked out the Kickstarter scene, this is a great place to start, Miskatonic High. So a really fun story with the King in Yellow in this issue here. Now, completely changing speeds. This is something that I thought was totally awesome when I saw it. It's someone that's actually backed Crime Busters before, a guy by the name of Mark Bennett. And he does this series, and it's so great. It's the Civil War Diary of Colby Freeman. Now, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's an illustrated adaptation of a Civil War soldier's account of his time in the war that he wrote after the war. And that's what Volume 1 is. And it's over 300 pages. Now, the art is basically stick figures, but it's great storytelling, very expressive. I'm actually a fan of this sort of thing. I know it's very different from, Marvel and DC type of art, but he can convey like a lot of stuff with expressions and emotions and action. You can actually express easier when you simplify. The more simplified you get, and so there's just some great art where in a way that you don't really expect it. And as a big history buff, I've been to almost all of the major Civil War battlefields in person, read a lot of books and watched a lot of documentaries and stuff. So it's definitely an area of interest for me. I was really excited to get this. Now, this isn't the only one, though, because this is just Volume 1. Starting with Volume 2, the Civil War Diary of Colby Freeman actually ended. There's only a fragment that survives for whatever reason. When he was writing about his years in the war, only like the first year of the diary survives. So starting with Volume 2, he's basing it off of Colby Freeman's letters home, but he's also bringing in other sources, letters from other soldiers in the same unit. He's bringing in like historical accounts from like the unit's official history and things like that to round it out, and you get a broader perspective on the war as a result. And the books get bigger and bigger because he's bringing in all these other characters that were in similar situations or may not have interacted with Colby Freeman directly. So Volume 2 is over 450 pages. And then Volume 3 just came out, and it's even bigger. It's almost 500 pages. So all told, this is like over 1,200 pages. And this one gets him up to Spotsylvania. So it's May of 1864 when this volume ends. It's taken him 10 years to do these 3 volumes. So I think it's going to be another several years before he is able to finish this. But again, even though it's, stick figures, it's really good. And you get, like I said, a lot of emotion in these stick figures. So it's really great. I was sick, as I've talked about for a long time. I got COVID on the 31st, and that really knocked me on my ass. And then it went straight into pneumonia. And so I was out from the 31st of December until like the 23rd or 24th of January, really, before I was feeling better. So several weeks. And these arrived while I was sick. And I spent like 2 whole days basically just lying in bed and lying on the couch and just binge reading all 3 of these books. When they came, they also came with some really cool newspapers. It's Freeman Colby's Illustrated Civil War magazine, and it's a newspaper-sized supplement that has photos and etchings and drawings from the period that the artist that Mark Bennett used in creating the book. And so it's all these like these really cool like historical documents. Here's like cards and photos, and it's just got like all the source material that he used when he was drawing. So these are really cool. They came with this. So this is a Kickstarter I was really happy to support. I absolutely love the books. It gave me hours and hours of reading, great reading at a time when I really needed it. So can't say enough about this. It's Mark Bennett again, Civil War Diary of Freeman Colby. So check that out online. So that's the Kickstarter haul for this time. Every time I do a Kickstarter, I end up cross-promoting with a bunch of people, and I end up seeing a bunch of projects, and then I end up backing a bunch of projects. So every time I put out one of my comics, I ended up with a pile of stuff. I still have a bunch of stuff that I haven't received, because it's just the nature of Kickstarter, but these all happen to come in pretty short order. A couple comics that I got for Christmas. My father-in-law, who is great and who backs all of my Kickstarters and is very supportive, he sent me some comics. The first is Marvel Family Comics #1. And it's in mint condition! Alright, it's the modern reprint, but this is the first appearance of Black Adam. Mighty Marvel family joins forces versus Black Adam. So this is the modern reprint of the first appearance of Black Adam. I'm not a huge Black Adam fan, but I do like the Marvel family. I like Mary Marvel in particular. He also got me this variant cover of from Guardians of the Galaxy #18. And it's Captain Marvel rescues Star-Lord on Spartax. This says Best Bendis Moments. That's the variant covers. Now, longtime viewers will know that I can't stand Brian Michael Bendis, but I do really appreciate the gift. I appreciate the thought. I haven't read it yet, but I will read it, even though it's a Bendis book. I think it's sort of perfectly in keeping with one of the many things I dislike about Brian Michael Bendis, that they would have a Bendis, a special Bendis cover celebrating how awesome Bendis is, because in my experience, when I read interviews with him back in the day, back when he was all over everything in the aughts, he talked a lot about how awesome he thought his own stuff was. So that's perfectly in keeping. But again, I really appreciate these gifts. I appreciate all the support from my father-in-law. It's always difficult to get gifts for someone who is a collector of anything. And so I really appreciate getting these. Now here's a couple things I bought for myself. You ready? Because they're really cool. First of all, I've showed before some Dan Parent variant covers. Now there used to be there's this one guy who has this contract where he does all these variant covers with Dan Parent, and they sold really well and they're really cool, and I used to get some of those. But the problem recently has been that Dan Parent has started doing that with other companies as well, and so you get every month there's multiple Dan Parent exclusive covers, and it's impossible to keep up with all of them. But also, it's sort of flooded the Archie variant market. So even though the individual covers may only have 250, there's just dozens of different ones. And so I used to be able to get I'd buy 2 of them, keep one for myself, and flip the other to pay for it. And it's impossible. So these days, I only buy the ones that I'm definitely going to keep for my own collection. And includes this one, which is Dan Parent's version of Archie Comics 50, only instead of Betty, it's Cheryl Blossom. So obviously Archie number 50, all-time classic cover, and I have a number 50. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, yeah, I've got to get this to go with my number 50. So yeah, this is really neat. Yeah, just I'm very excited about this. I actually forget what the actual comic is. It's some kind of Valentine's special that Archie puts out. It's actually not even listed on the cover. And my understanding is that if you take this out of this bag, the back cover is the original with Betty, but I'm not going to do that. And here's a back issue that I got. I know that Rob Tartan Phantom, you'll appreciate this because I got this in the mail, and then the next day I saw on the Classic Comics forum you had posted that you got a copy of this as well, because we're both trying to do the same thing here. We're both trying to put together a complete run of the Granny Gumshoe issues of National Comics. So this is her second appearance, February, whatever year, 47, I think. It's National Comics number 58. Now, this is a low-grade copy. It's got a chunk out of the edge here. It's got a big crease top to bottom. It's got a lot of dirt and like spots on the cover. It does have a little bit of rust of the staples, but it's a complete, tight, low-grade copy. And I love Granny Gumshoe. What I really want to do is put the whole run together so then I can do what I did with the Boy Comics. I did the Crime Buster 80th anniversary special where I scanned the stories from my original collection and then remastered them so they were like the highest quality scans that you can get of the books in today. So I want to do that here, get the whole run, because every issue she's only in 5 to 6 pages, right? And there's 14 issues that she's in. So what you're looking at is about 70 to 75 pages, right, for her complete Golden Age run. So what I want to do is get the full run, scan all of those, digitally clean up those pages, and then do a 100-page giant special with the complete Golden Age Granny Gumshoe stories reprinted in it, and then have a new Granny Gumshoe story on the flip side, just like I did with the Crime Buster special. But I'm a long way from doing that, so don't get too excited. I only have, I think, 4 of the 14 issues now. I've got 57, 58, and I think I have 64 and 68. So I still have 10 to go. They don't come up that often for sale on eBay, and when they do, they're usually a little out of my price range. I got a good deal on this. I think it was $25. That's what I'm looking for. If I can get copies in the 2.0 range that are complete and tight, I don't even really care how tight they are because I'm going to be scanning them. That's going to sort of ruin the tightness. If I can get clean, complete copies in any grade, 1.8, fine. That's what I'm looking for. I just don't want to pay more than like $25 each for them. So I'm going to try and put together the rest of the run, and then somewhere a couple years, hopefully down the road when I have them all, put out this Granny Gumshoe special. But very exciting to get this. I did buy another issue shortly after this that I have coming. I forget what number it is. It might actually be the next issue, 59, but I'm not sure. I have another issue of National Comics on the way, which I'll show you next time I have accumulated enough for a haul video. But very exciting. I love Granny Gumshoe, and we're one step closer to that goal. Finally, it's the Omnibuses. I mentioned in some of my previous videos, if you've been watching them, I recently sold my complete Doctor Strange run from Strange Tales 110 up through the end of Doctor Strange 183. And I did that because I needed the money to fund making new comics. So I always try and tell myself when I'm selling off these beloved old comics that, there's tens of thousands of those out there, and I can get reprints to read them, but I can use that money to make a new comic that otherwise wouldn't exist. So that's what I did. But I love these stories very much. Not just the Doctor Strange, but the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff from Steranko, and even before Steranko. Just the Lee Kirby S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff is top notch. Strange Tales, I said it before, starting with 135, one of the best books that Marvel was putting out at the time. Criminally underrated, but like every issue there where you have that, especially that initial S.H.I.E.L.D. storyline is great. And then in the backup, the Doctor Strange is the classic Eternity storyline by Ditko. Those issues are some of the best comics that Marvel ever put out. So when I sold those off and I got the money back, the first thing I did is I bought all the omnibuses so that I can still read the stories anytime I want. So, this was the hardest one to get and the most expensive and also the biggest. It's the Shield Omnibus. Now, this is out of print, and when I first was looking, it was like $2 everywhere. But I did find someone on eBay that had a slightly used copy, so you can see it's got just a little bit of a crunch at the top here. And of course, it's not in the shrink wrap, which I don't care about. But I was able to get this for the original list price. So list price is $100. I was able to get this for $100. And this is a monster. It's absolutely huge. It's 950 pages. And what it has in it is Fantastic Four 21. That's the issue where Nick Fury first appears in the modern day, and he's working for the FBI, the CIA in that issue. And then it's got Strange Tales 135 through 168, and then it's got S.H.I.E.L.D. 1 to whatever the last number was, 18? I forget, 15, 18, whatever it was. And then they left some dangling plot threads, right, when it was canceled. So it's got Avengers 72 to tie up that. And then, I was really surprised at this, it's also got Marvel Spotlight 31, which was a Nick Fury S.H.I.E.L.D. solo story from many years later. Like, I don't know, like 7 to 10 years later. It was much later in the late 70s. So I was really surprised that it had that in it. But, absolute monster. Of course, the omnibuses are hard to read because they're so big and heavy. They're really big and really heavy. But I'm really happy to have this. And they're not all really big and heavy, because here's the exciting thing. I also bought the Doctor Strange counterpart to this, right? But check this out. They split the Doctor Strange one into 2 volumes. And so you have this, volume 1, which is actually a normal-sized book, even though it's the omnibus. Now, the second volume is definitely significantly thicker than the first one, but it's not nearly as big as the S.H.I.E.L.D. volume. So both of these combined are barely bigger than the S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think if they had combined them, it would have been the same size as the S.H.I.E.L.D. It's only bigger because there's 2 thick covers instead of 1 cover. But I'm very happy that they did that. And the other thing is, I got both of these brand new at a super deep discount. So even though there's 2 volumes, this has a suggested retail price of $75, and this one's supposed to be $100. Here's the front covers. I got the pair of them for $86 shipped. So here's volume 1, and this is the Ditko Doctor Strange. So that's where they split it. Volume 1 is Ditko. So what this has in it is Strange Tales 110 to 146, all the Ditko issues, plus Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 2, where he crosses over with Doctor Strange. It's got all the classics. It's 100% Ditko. And pretty much 100% Ditko, because he was writing this stuff as well, and Stan was just adding some of the dialogue. So this is great. Again, this was it's priced at $75, but I think I only paid like $45 for this one. The other one was even on a deeper discount. So this was very cheap. And I definitely recommend it because, again, even though it's an omnibus, because it only collects the Ditko issues, it's not that big, right? It's not like a super heavy door stopper. So this I'm super excited about. This is the new cover, which it looks like it's Alex Ross. There is a throwback Ditko cover, but that one was more expensive. So I just was a cheapskate. And then there's this one, which is the next volume. And this one I got like 60% off. So this was also just like $40, even though it's listed as $100. And as you can see, I got the throwback cover for this one. Again, I just picked whichever one was cheaper. And for some reason, this Gene Colan throwback cover was the cheap version. And what this has in it is it's got everything. It's got Strange Tales 147 to 168, so the rest of the Strange Tales run. Doctor Strange 169 to 183. It's got Avengers 61 in it, which is a crossover with Doctor Strange 178. But then it's also got, after the series ended, there was some loose ends. So it's got those. It's got Submariner 22 and Incredible Hulk 126, which is where they tied up the loose ends. And then, like a year and a half later or more, it also includes, and I was really surprised by this, the Doctor Strange solo backup story from Marvel Feature number 1. So the first appearance of the Defenders, of course, is where Doctor Strange kind of came back. He had been completely out of comics for a while, like a couple years. Brought back there, but what a lot of people don't know is in the backup story to Marvel Feature number 1, to the first Defender story, there is a solo backup Doctor Strange story. So he gets his first solo story, again, since the series was ended over 2 years earlier, and that sort of set the stage for them to bring him back with his own series in Marvel Premiere number 3. So I didn't realize that this was going to have that bonus material in it. I do have, I think, the Submariner issue at least. I'm not sure I have the Hulk issue. I might. And I know I have the Marvel Feature, but now I'm like, wow, well, maybe I'll sell those two or trade them or potentially give them to somebody. I don't know. So these are really cool. Like the Shield one's really cool for me because I don't have a complete run of Shield. So I had all the Strange Tales issues, but I had never been able to put together the follow-up, the Shield series itself. So some of these I'm going to be able to read for the first time. But in particular, these Doctor Strange omnibuses, again, I was able to get both of them for $86 combined. And that's a deal you can't beat, particularly because they're both small enough to actually read. So I'm very happy with these. Obviously, I miss having, the actual back issues. But these are really great, really great. So I'm very excited. Anyway, that's my haul. Let me know what you think down below. I went on way too long about how cool these omnibuses are, but let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you next time.